to be or not to be? That is the question. Who said that? It must have been an if statement.
So of course it had to be a if statement. Though being the most basic element of programming, it does have a few quirks you want to be aware of. Today we're leaving DataFlex behind and will instead start to look at DataFlex. You know what I mean. We're leaving the framework and diving deeper into the programming language, because if you want to do more fun things in your program, then you need to know the language. The framework is there to make things easy and help you build applications, but you need to know the language in order to actually create some nice feature or special business logic in your application. Oh, by the way, comments and questions are very welcome in the comments below. I might have missed something. There might be some special case that you want to look at, or something I can add to the code in the Git, because you can always go over to the Git repository and download the code that I make here. So write that in the comments below if you have anything. Okay, Boolean is the most basic element in the programming language, and it can only be true or false, apart from when it's not, but I'll get back to that later. You create a Boolean by writing Boolean and then the name of your variable. In DataFlex, the suggested way of writing Boolean variables is with a camel case starting with a lowercase b, like b is camel case. You do an assignment by using the move statement, move true to is b camel case, and then you can check if b is camel case is true. That's more or less all you can do with the Boolean, and the video would end here. But we have a few expressions that can evaluate to a Boolean value, and it might be interesting to have a look at those as well. So I made some code for you. I tried to create some variables that I want to play with and test, and I have some code here where I check if an unassigned value, if it's true or false. I'm testing a few integers, and you can just go in here and add any integer to check if it's true or false. And I'm also testing a few strings to see if they are true or false. And down here I check some dates, and here is a special thing, because if you assign 0 to a date, then it will kind of be blank, but if you assign 1 to a date, you get a date, and then you can remove 1, then it should be 0, technically speaking. So I also want to test what that evaluates to. Then we have some other dates that might be interesting to evaluate and see, because some of these are actually regarded as 0 values in databases and in some programming languages. So I just added a few of those. The Boolean is really nice to have as a switch, like turning something on and off. And there is an easy way to switch states. So if it's on, you turn it off, and if it's off, you turn it on. And that's just by using the not value here. So I want to highlight that as well and show how that works. And then we have the null values. And there are some cases where you might get a null value from a database or something, but there aren't really any specific null values in DataFlex. So I had to kind of use this is null datetime function to check if a datetime that I think is null, and then see what happens when I try to evaluate it. And what it turns out is that it's an invalid type. So you cannot put a null value inside an if statement, because you'll just get that it's not valid logic. But we can try and run this application, and if we do that, you can see the result. And here we can see that a Boolean is false by default, and the integers 2 is true, 0 is false, -1 is true, and -0 is false. So anything with 0 is false, and anything else is true. And I test a different cases of strings here. The empty string is false, test is true, null is true, undefined is true. So all of these is just considered regular strings and not evaluated to anything. And looking at our different dates down here, we can see that an unassigned date is false. A 0 date behaves like an unassigned date actually, and it's also false. But if I take a date and assign it to 1 and then remove 1, and in practice I should get back to 0, then the date evaluates to 2001, and then it's considered true, because then it's a real date. But the date 000 is false, but any other date you might think of is actually true. And down here you can see the not btests function at work, true, false, true, false, true, false. And if we have a null value, you can see down here that it evaluates to not valid logic. That's all I had for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week.